All right, y'all. Greetings, everybody. I am King Ruler. I don't write it on buses no more, but I am still King Ruler. And this is Heal PTHD, the podcast where we try to heal the hood one podcast at a time. And today, I have one of my brothers. I actually grew up around the corner from this brother over in what we call, I'm not going to say the hood because I'm not going to promote hoods on here, but like that. But we know where we grew up at, bro. We grew up
Jefferson
in South
Arlington.
Jefferson and Arlington. They call it what? Jefferson Park now.
Yeah, that's right? What it is. It's Jefferson Park.
Jefferson Park. It sounds so clean now.
It definitely sounds clean now.
That still gives me, man. Every time I roll through there, I'd be like, Jefferson Park? This is Harlem. Anyway, so at the end of the day, we are here today with my brother, Aaron Showtime Taylor. Now, I've known this brother since I was very little. He left as I was entering into maybe junior high high school or after high school. And I didn't see him for a long time, but we had a really close friend that kept us in contact. I kind of knew everything that was happening through Cone, but
right.
We kept in contact with what was happening with my brother. He is a prolific speaker. He is a game announcer. Is that what it's called? Is that what it's called?
Sports commentator, sports broadcaster, play-by-play commentator, play-by-play announcer.
Yeah. He's worked with the Golden State Warriors. I've been watching him and watching his flow since he's been released. He's been doing some big things. And today we are here to talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts. Please, y'all, help me welcome my brother, Aaron Showtime Taylor. Thank you for joining me today, bro. I appreciate you being here, man.
Man, I appreciate that you even extended the offer, man. And, we boys. I keep telling people all the time, man, the only way you can grow is by going through something.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way it's going to happen. You got to go through something, right, come out of it. And then that's where the growth is at, because you came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have realized you was built for that type of assignment until you was already in it. And then when you come out on the other side, it's like, okay, we're going to need to process that. But that's what we're going to talk about on the show today anyway.
So today, like we said, it's going to be called Trapped Between the Red Lines. And I think we all should know what that means, because between the red lines, you've heard the stories and probably seen the documentaries already about redlining, where we were redlined out of certain neighborhoods, and the places that we were stuck in, they called the ghetto, which became the hood, right? And in the hood, there are certain aspects of the hood that keeps the brand of the hood, if that's a thing, right? Keeps the brand of the hood alive. I got 5 of them today we're going to talk about briefly. But first and foremost, what I want to do is this. I saw something that you were doing that was very similar to what we were doing. And I was like, I got to get him involved with this right here. Of course, we're called post-traumatic hood disorder, which is basically meaning that there's a disorder in the hood that has become normalized, and it's become what we call a culture, which is not really a culture. It's just dysfunctional behavior normalized. Now, yours, I saw something that you have is called post-traumatic stress urban survival syndrome. Do me a favor, man. I know what it is. I kind of know what it is, but do me a favor. Break that down for everybody, because it's probably the same thing that we're doing, but we are both on the same page. This whole hood life, technically, is just not normal. It gets normalized, but it's really trauma, and people are responding from the trauma they experience by living in those environments trapped between the red lines. But do me a favor, kind of break down your concept of post-traumatic stress urban survival syndrome.
So the post automatically. Well, first off, thank you for having me on again, and to the audience listening, we definitely appreciate you. So I break it down word for word. I'm a linguist, so post means something that didn't happen already, right? Trauma is something, I define trauma as something that happened to you that you had no control over and you didn't want to happen to you, right? So we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about whatever happened in that trauma
Mm-hmm.
is going to cause current and future stress.
Yeah.
That stress is what wears on the body. That's why they call it post traumatic stress disorder. You have hood in yours, but I come with urban survival syndrome behind it because there's a certain type of lifestyle that I had to live growing up, which helped lead me to jail. But to be in that lifestyle, right, is to not function in a normal fashion. To not function as a full human being is to function by cutting off half of who you are, having that half beat out of you growing up as a kid. You know what I'm saying? You can't cry, you can't show any emotions, you can't show sympathy, you can't be
Mm-hmm.
empathetic. You know what I'm saying? You have to be a beast all the time, and we get that
You
put
can't be
into us.
human.
So,
Yeah.
right, you can't be a full human.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the difference between just being a human and a full human who's totally in control of their thoughts, their mind state, their emotions, their spiritual journeys. When you're in control of all of that, you don't worry about what other people think about
Mm-hmm.
you. You know, there's no reason to worry about it because you have to be comfortable in yourself to even go on that type of journey. And so post traumatic stress urban survival syndrome is part of that. I grew up in an urban area learning how to survive where we grew up at over on Jefferson and Arlington. You know, my street
Absolutely.
science and my street knowledge came from right there. And so that's the
Mm-hmm.
urban survival part of it. But the syndrome is almost in a sense like an insanity because the definition of insanity is to repeat the same thing over and over, but expect a different result.
Exactly.
You know, and when you look at it that way, before I went to prison, I looked at everything the same way. I'm going to do A, B, C, and then at the end of that, there's going to be D, right? But what did it really ever happen that way, or did I wish for it to happen that way? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And that's the part that we look back when we call it the disorder part, because you have to understand what we went through growing up. You may have never gangbanged, but you was around gangbangers. You saw what happened to them. You know what I'm saying? You know what street life was like. This was before I left, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like you didn't know what was going on. And now here we come 26 years later, and you addressing the problems that you seen growing up as a grown man, as a
Exactly.
grown adult man saying, I see something that I can help to try to change this culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know the culture you're talking about. The culture just, we just gonna be who we is wherever we at, and we don't DGAF who looks at it. No, that ain't cool.
Mm-hmm. Not at all, sir.
That's not the right. That's not the way it is. And so post traumatic stress urban survival syndrome has all of those components to it because some people act out like that because that's the only way they know how to act out because nobody never told them about mental health and what you can do to help yourself. So they do those
Mm-hmm.
act outs that you're talking about. And, I don't care what you say. If one white person does something, black folks is automatically like, yeah, all y'all the same way. And they do it to us too.
Yeah.
Did you know that 98% of all traffic tickets issued end in conviction? Even if you hire a lawyer. Once convicted, you can end up with points on your driving record. Your insurance rates are going to shoot through the roof. Oh, and don't forget about the fine. If you don't pay the fine, your license gets suspended. So, are you ready to dodge the charge? Then you must do something different. Get the facts on how to properly contest your traffic ticket. Go to ticketfacts.com right now. Tickets like speeding tickets, suspended license ticket, cell phone tickets, insurance tickets, registration tickets, anything with a ticket, you can beat it. Want to dodge the charge? Then go to ticketfacts.com. That's ticketfacts.com or call 866 932 9008. That's 866 932 9008. We share the facts because we've been where you're at. So click or call now.
Yeah.
So that's another form of insanity. That's another part of the urban survival syndrome as well.
Yeah, trust me, man. I got this PTHD from going to therapy. That's how I came up
Hmm.
with it. About 15, 16 years ago, I went to therapy just feeling like something I just couldn't do it. I was going through a breakup. I just couldn't understand why my life kept going in this circle. And it kept having the same residue after I woke up from the clouds. But it was just like I went to this therapist and I just had to sit down and just tell my story of how I grew up. And it just didn't make sense to me. Like I was like,
Hmm.
this is not normal. Like me playing sports and traveling around and college and stuff and seeing different things. I got a chance to see different things, and everywhere I went that was not outside of the hood didn't look like the hood. But I didn't know how to process it at the time. But it wasn't until like 15 years ago when I was like, this is not normal. I have a
Right.
hood disorder. But I put
Hmm.
everything together. But I didn't know what to do with it then. So it came full circle after I studied the mind. I studied spirituality. I studied what we call Ori and what I do, and how that stuff plays a part and how your mind processes everything you go through. And the way you show up in the world is how your mind is processing things
Right.
on the inside. So we're
Right.
taught in the hood to do certain things that is just not normal, right? So
Well,
that's what
in in fairness,
uh-huh.
in fairness, it's normal to them,
In the hood.
right?
Yeah,
And in a sense, we become translators, right, as an intermediary between the hood and then that next level,
yeah,
because
yeah.
we trying to show them, hey, you can get here. You can, but you gotta take you gotta fix yourself first, but you can get here, and then
Yeah,
you move on.
yeah,
So in a sense, I would it's acceptable in the hood because the hood really doesn't question character, integrity, accountability, responsibility, or anything like that.
hmm,
Never have and never. I don't think it ever will because that's just how the hood is.
exactly. And speaking of that, um, I think it gets perpetuated. It gets handed down. This whole concept that we're talking about, it gets
Hmm.
handed down through music, entertainment, right? And I think the biggest component of that, to me, is not so much movies, but music.
Hmm.
I'm a I'm a strong believer that if you want to know what was happening in a particular decade, just pick the hottest songs of that decade and you'll see what's going on, right?
Hmm.
If you want to know what was happening in 68 to 73, just start listening to Marvin Gaye and James Brown and see what happened then. If you want to see what was happening in 1990, listen to NWA, listen to the music at the time, right?
Hmm.
That's what people were doing. If you want to know what's happening today, just look at the music today, right? So the music is very influential to me, entertainment in general, but specifically music because it is something that goes into the subconscious that you really can't get out
Hmm.
unless you really focus on healing yourself from all of the things that it was feeding in the first place, right? So, and this first question I want to ask you is, it's not going to be a long, elaborate question, doesn't have to, but I just want to set the tone. What age group do you feel is the most targeted with music in general? Which age group do you feel they target the most with music? Young,
I mean,
old,
the
middle
the most
class?
impressionable ones, the young. You know what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
that's not difficult. You want to catch people while they're young and whatnot. And if there's any type of if there's any type of I don't know, I use the word grooming. If there's any type of
Mhm.
grooming that's going to take place, it's going to start when you're young.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and but if we go down the route that you just gave, right, and put the onus of responsibility on music,
Mhm.
then the parents would probably be more accountable than the children because the parents are supposed to be in this child's life anyway,
Mhm.
right? And the parent is supposed to be there to make sure that whatever's not supposed to be coming in can be filtered so it can come
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
You know, um, I disagree with blaming the music because in the end, each individual has to be held accountable for the decisions that they made in the process. And unless we're putting music on trial, which I would love to do, but unless they go up there and have to sit under that judgment, they actually get the freedom to say that people, that's that's just people listening to what they're saying, listening, hearing something, and agreeing with it and going acting on it, and I'm not responsible for it. That part bothers me because we're here to talk about accountability and responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, so there is a level of accountability that specifically black rappers really need to take a look at. You know, whether they realize it or not, they arm anybody that's your political enemy or your spiritual energy. You arm them by doing what you're doing in public like that. You're giving them all the ammunition they need to say, yeah, see where they go to, they supposed to be spiritual. Look at them hypocrites.
Yeah. So do you feel like music influences the minds and the statistic technically of the hood? You think that the music has any influence over that type of stuff?
Yeah. But then I always have to stay conscious of the fact that I was in prison for 26 years, you know, and
I'm glad you're
that's a
home, bro.
long
I don't know
time.
if I told you that or not, but I'm glad you.
What you
made
told
it
me?
out.
You told me on the block, bro.
I just want to make sure I said it. I just want to make sure I said it. But okay, I'm
told me
glad I
on the
said it
block
twice.
a couple of times.
I'm glad I said
This is the third time I heard it. I expect to hear it a few more times too, because it's like you look at me like he was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that responsibility, right? I'm huge on that because I had to be accountable and responsible to get released from prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yes, gangster or lyrics or song lyrics have something to do with why people act. But I fall more on the responsibility and onus on the individual. And if that person is too young to make their own decision, then I put it on the parents, right? I noticed while I was gone, there's been like a shift. Not you, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in general, where people want to blame and point fingers at other people and hold them accountable for the way that they feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me say that one more time. There's people running around here that are mad at me, right? Because I wouldn't invest my time into them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I chose to invest it in other places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, music has a lot to do with that because the music is hella disrespectful. and that's how people treat each other out here. So yes, it does have an influence on it, but in the end, each one of those individuals listening to that music has to own their accountability in it. And I think that's the point that you've been trying to make since I've been going back looking at your tapes. Individuals have to take personal accountability. You don't need the president to come in and tell you, "Oh, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have did this." You may never get that apology. How you gonna deal with it? And are you gonna deal with it from a distorted perspective, or are you gonna deal with it from a healed perspective?
Exactly.
Look, I'm not a rapper, I just know how to do it. I'm a man on a mission, ain't much more to it. Some choose to fake it, Baba elect to be it. Y'all blind to the facts, can ruler rather see it? I'm like Django in a Kango, grand verbalizing, munching on a mango. Who needs degrees when you got these stripes? From surviving the trials and tribulations of real life. Rhymes, predatory, your writing skills editorial.